in a sense, you're selling a solution. Like here, this is not just another tabletop role-playing game. It's a solution to a very specific problem. And when you are crafting your page, your offer, when you are trying to promote your product, what solution are you presenting, and how about are you doing that? So that's maybe something to keep in mind as well if you are laying out your page. This is kind of, I found this to be quite difficult for games, because games aren't really providing a solution. I suppose the solution to boredom. So you have to, there has to be evidence that this isn't going to be a dull experience. Are you simply just stating it's the case? This game's really fun. Is that going to really convince anyone? Or are you demonstrating or showing that this game is really fun and allowing people to come to their own conclusion?
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined as almost always by Sean. Today we're going to talk about the thesis statement of your crowdfunding page and really of your project, and why it matters so much to your ability to fund, your ability to connect the product with your audience. Feels like we've been doing a lot of making games podcasts lately, which I really love, but also marketing lessons, even though you'll get a lot of marketing lessons infused into those podcasts. I really also like when we talk about topics like this, which is literally a marketing lesson through and through that we might be able to apply to various projects and various games, but it's more theory. I really like talking theory when you can apply it tangibly to something happening like that makes it real. I hate when people talk about theory that has, oh, you should do this, you should do that has no true application. It's like, yeah, you should be perfect, you should be a billionaire, you should live to the age of 1,000. It's like, well, I don't know how to do those things. So anyway, I will step off my soapbox. And what do you think about the topic at hand?
Yeah, I suppose the thesis in terms of the Kickstarter page, the layout, is that kind of the idea that we're trying to really focus in on here, how to present your product and your offer in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, but even beyond that, it's like when you're playtesting a thing, you're kind of making a case for it. And that's really what the whole intent was. Like, so this week we had a couple of launches on Kickstarter that went like, the dichotomy of two particular campaigns was so different. Like, one of our clients was Nimble RPG. At this point, just been a few days, but like 48 hours, they've raised almost $260,000. I mean, I think their first campaign they launched was like $17,000 for the whole campaign. And then they hire us, and now we're at like in 48 hours, we're at 260,000 raised. Or I guess, yeah, maybe a little less than that, but a little less time than that. But then there's this other product, which I don't want to name, but it's not a board game. It's in like the food space. And they had like a really good email list. We were getting money, we were getting followers for very low cost. We were getting emails that you can email subscribers for low cost. And it really felt like they ended up putting forth a page on Kickstarter that didn't convince anybody that to back. And they also made other errors, like they charged too much for shipping. If the product it actually ended up being the product cost more if you backed it on Kickstarter than if you just waited and bought it at the store because of the shipping. It's like, well, why would you? But if you bought higher pledge levels, you got free shipping. And it's like, there were a number of mistakes they made. But then they got the Project We Love badge. It's like, well, shoot, should we scrap this one or should we go for it? And I think they're only like $2,500 to their goal, but we want people to fund on day one. Like, if you get thousands of emails on your list and people are excited about something, like, you should fund on the first day, right? And it totally didn't happen. And the reason that we had a conversation with the clients, like, right away. They're like, oh no, it's an emergency, we need to have a meeting. And of course, we jump into a meeting. Donnie and I did, And it was like, let's review the page, because the way this client worked, they just wanted us for, list building, and they didn't want our opinion at all on things like the actual story and the way it was laid out and presented and whatnot. Which, for the most part, unless people opt out of it, like we kind of require that now. Like it's we don't
It's
require
baked into our
default.
service. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're paying for it
because
anyway.
it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like we want products that we work on to be successful. So we want to make sure that you don't run into any of the, emergency, I don't know, not emergency, but any of the problems that cause people not to back. It's like I want as little friction as possible. I want somebody to say, yes, this was the thing I was looking forward to. It's at the exact price that I hoped it was. It is totally touted by influencers, and I think that this is a good fit for me, and I'm going to buy this. I don't want people to be like, oh, it's more expensive than I hoped. The shipping is really expensive, and I don't know why this, like what they're saying about the product, I don't necessarily agree with. And so that's where we kind of get into the subject at hand. And the way that I handled it was, I never really had explained it this way before to the client, but I'm like, I said, it feels like your thesis statement is off. That it's not something that I necessarily disagree with, but it's your the statement that you're making is not very. I can't really get passionate about it. And the statement that they used to kind of avoid, again, I don't like trying throwing our clients under the bus or anything. That's why I am keeping the the name out of everything and identifying information out of everything. But it's like, this product brings food to life is what they said. And I'm like, that doesn't, I mean, food's already tasty, and there are other variations of that product already on the market. And so why don't the other products also bring food to life? And they're you're not making a very strong case for this. And so I thought, like, how can we make a really strong case for what this product is? Like, you need to make a statement that you can then back up with supporting documentation. It's like, if this product is so awesome, tell me, like, where's the social proof? Show me people that say it's awesome. Show me the product in action that that in a way that looks awesome, and all of that. And so the conversation kind of started. It felt like I went back to middle school, and my sixth grade English teacher, who was the first person to teach me how to write an essay, organized, and that's actually where this marketing lesson is kind of rooted. You have this this format for writing an essay, which is, the way that I understood it, is called OTIC. It's OTIIIC, and it stands for, O is opening statement, T is thesis statement, III would be main idea 1, main idea 2, main idea 3. That's like Roman numerals. And then C is conclusion. And in this kind of analogy, the thesis statement is what is called the main idea. The main idea of the paper, that's the thing that causes you to be focused, and that's the thing that causes you to kind of, it's the lens that you use to examine the rest of the content. So I'll use an example from my own life in a project I did. So I was in college, my senior project. They called it Senior Experience. We actually went and we were a group of 5 senior college students in the School of Business at Cal State San Marcos, where we had a various majors. One of us was an accountant. One of us was like a marketing major. I was a business management major, and so on. And we worked for a nonprofit. They wanted what's called an economic impact analysis of nonprofits in San Diego County. so that they can kind of figure out how to get more funding for nonprofits at the, from the government, is basically what it was. And we learned a lot of cool things. We put together a huge paper. It's like 180 pages. And in the very beginning, so there are a number of different sections of this massive document that we put together after 6 months of work. There was a 2-page executive summary that explains everything. It's like the short version. The if you were to just read these 2 pages, you would understand what we did, what happened, and what the results were, and what our conclusion was. And so, before we handed it in officially, because we're actually working for companies and doing real things in the world, our teachers were like, we're going to grade this first. Before you actually hand it in, we're going to give you an opportunity. We're going to grade this and then give you an opportunity to fix what it is that is wrong, so that you can actually deliver something that is excellent, right, to these people, because they're, investing into the college. And so they're kind of loaning out some students, and they want the results to be fantastic. And I remember after all this work, we failed that we got an F on that initial like grading from the teachers. And there was a number of corrections that they made and that kind of thing. But the executive summary was the focus. The data was good. The conclusion was good. Like, out of a 180-page document, 178 of those pages were great. The problem was the way that we summarized everything. That was in essence our thesis statement, our main idea, the main thing we wanted to prove, or the main thing we wanted to get across. It wasn't written properly. Like, we didn't do an economic impact analysis of all the nonprofits. We did like step 1 of 5 that are major steps you need to take in order to actually conduct this. So we conducted the very first step, which is figuring out all the nonprofits, what revenue they bring in to the region, and what they do, and the types of benefits that come from them and whatnot. But like, to actually examine, like, if you put $1 million more into nonprofits, what would the impact be to the citizens of San Diego County, was beyond the scope of the document. And our teacher was a very smart man. His name is Ofer Milik. He correctly saw that the paper, that the 2-page summary was saying you're going to do something that you didn't do. And that's why we got an F. And so we scrambled. We had a teacher who was our advisor, a lady named Kathy Bates, who was an amazing human resources professor. And she was like scrambling with us, like, oh no, what's going on? What's wrong? And we kind of identified, actually, everything is great that we did, but we kind of framed it incorrectly. So the teacher that graded us was like totally expecting one thing, and we delivered another. And so what we ended up doing is changing that 2-page executive summary. We kind of reframed what they're about to look at, and we got an A+. We got a high A. It was like a 99 out of 100 that we got on our senior project. And we gave a presentation on it, and everyone was like very impressed, and we all did really well. And it was like a model for everyone else. And I can't believe, even to this day, I look back on that experience and think how important it is to properly frame all of the stuff that you're asking someone to read or to consume about your project. And we're in crowdfunding, right? And so we deal with all sorts of different projects, and a lot of them are board games and whatnot. And to use this dichotomy of the 2 projects, the Nimble RPG did such a great job of framing what the project was, and explaining why it was good and why you should support it and why you'd want it, and so on.
One thing, if I could interject with Nimble,
Yeah.
what I think it does quite well, because if you're talking about Thesis, you can, Hegel was a philosopher, and he's sort of known for his dialectic approach of approaching everything, and I think has limitations. But essentially, is that you have a thesis, an antithesis, and then from this you can draw a synthesis. And I think Nimble does a great job at doing this because they have the thesis, which is this is what you're trying to do at tabletop role playing games. You want to maximize those kind of memorable moments, and then reduce the kind of minutia of creating campaigns. So they have that thesis, and then the antithesis, which is the laborious work that takes learning role playing games, and then they offer the solution or the synthesis, which is here's this product which you can have the best of both worlds. You can have the kind of wow experiences of traditional role playing games, but without all the heavy lifting and prep. So that was how they laid out their page. I thought it was very good because in a sense you're selling a solution. Like here, this is not just another tabletop role playing game, it's a solution to a very specific problem. So that's maybe something to keep in mind as well if you are laying out your page. This is kind of, I found this to be quite difficult for games because games aren't really providing a solution. I suppose the solution to boredom. So you have to, there has to be evidence that this isn't going to be a dull experience. But that's something to keep in mind when you are crafting your page, your offer, when you are trying to promote your product. What solution are you presenting, and how about are you doing that? Are you simply just stating it's the case? This game's really fun. Is that going to really convince anyone? Or are you demonstrating or showing that this game is really fun and allowing people to come to their own conclusion? And that's often a pitfall we see people fall into. Like even with this, project that hasn't done too well, they're a particular creator who's gone to Kickstarter several times. So I think people
had great success.
They've had great success. I can understand why we don't need you to review our page because we know what we're doing. We've done this lots of times, and we even have clients who are like that, who don't actually opt into our page reviews. I still think they should do it because we can still pick up typos or spelling mistakes or whatever. It's always good to have some people to look over it. So I understand that, but we would have very quickly been able to point on this particular instance that their page has no social proof, right? So they're making all these statements like, "Oh, this product's amazing," but there's no third party saying this product's amazing. So it really just appears to be assertions which you can't really trust because of course you're going to say it's amazing. You're trying to sell it. What we really need is, in this particular case, we need a YouTuber who's this is a food product. So maybe they've made some type of dish using this food, and then they say, "Wow, this has really enhanced this. I recommend it for this reason." And so they need that type of thing, which they lack. But come back full circle, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. I think it's important to present your thesis, but also do so within the context of some type of solution that you're seeking to bring about.
Yeah, and I guess another way that my brain interprets what it is that you're saying is, so you have kind of your, we'll get back to the opening statement because I think opening statement is different than the thesis or the main idea. But to use a firsthand example of this Nimble RPG, Slay TTRPG's Slog.
Mm-hmm.
That's their
solution.
Kind of thesis, right? Yeah, the main idea. Nimble is a fast tactical TTRPG that eliminates the slog that's all too common in our game nights. And the main statement just put right out there, that is the reason that you would back this and all of it, just kind of in the very first paragraph. And the antithesis, so that you have the thesis, you have the antithesis, which is the antithesis, I guess another way to say that word. I would frame that as a problem we can all agree on. So one of the, in speech and debate classes that I would take, or that I used to take, or just in speaking to a group, which I do on the regular, you want to be able to say something that we can all agree on. We can all agree that it's not fun to slog through round 3 of a D&D fight when it's 30 minutes until you get your next turn, or whatever, right? Like that kind of the commonality, you establish commonality, and so you get people saying, "Yeah, you're right," and then the solution is that synthesis you're talking about. It's like, well, we have a solution, right? It's like, ShamWow, don't you just hate when you spill something and I don't know, but it's this concept of you're making a statement of what your product is and what problem it solves. Then you talk about the problem that we can all agree on, and then you present a solution, and you have to explain why it's the solution, right? In a benefit focused way, not like a feature way. Like Nimble features 200 plus new monsters that are awesome is not a problem, is not solving the problem. So, and I think Nimble does such a great job being focused on what it does right. So like, for example, what is it? It's got like, it leads with social proof. So it's like, whatever this is, it must be good. And then it explains what it is. And then after that, it's got like some quotes that are like, one says, awesome. Instead of checking my phone by round 3 of another sluggish 5e slugfest, I'm riding a nimble roller coaster and enjoying every twist and drop until the end. People might say, oh, this project is doing well because it says #1 TTRPG of the year, but who is Short Rest Studios? Who is S2 Games? Who is Knights of the Last Call? They're it just, I don't know who they are, but these are pretty cool. Like, it's just social proof. It's like, okay, I don't know who these people are. If it was like, by Polygon magazine or something, it's like, okay, that's kind of a big deal. Or if like Barack Obama said, this got me into RPGs, maybe it'd be a big deal, right? I never played RPGs because I was too afraid, but now with Nimble, I play them. So you've got different people. Maybe some people know who Professor Dungeon Master is. I don't know. It's like the first quote. But the important thing is like, okay, this is not just a fly by night thing. And the Nimble is a fast tactical TTRPG that eliminates the slog. That's all too common in our game nights. This whole first paragraph of text is the problem, is both the thesis statement and kind of the problem and everything kind of wrapped into one. It's the main idea and everything that they talk about. So in core rules, this is where I believe they identify the problem. That like, you are heroes, attacks just hit, and it talks about it speaks in the negative. Don't waste your time rolling to see if you can deal damage. Just roll your damage dice, deal that much damage, and so on. And it's addressing the problems and immediately proposing like, well, this is what we do that fixes it. And then it just, it's very focused. It's like actively engage in combat, and you can easily use your 5e content, which is pretty cool. I told them that was one of my recommendations, like bump that way up the page, so that people that have 5e and are used to that can recognize, okay, this will expand the content I can use and whatnot. But I had so very little to complain about with this page.
I thought this next section
another...
was excellent because they here
Yep.
they provide a side-by-side view of the character sheets for Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinders and their one, and there's just so much streamlined. I'm just looking at it, like you're kind of getting I don't know, like visual overload with the Pathfinders one. There's like so many boxes to check, and like, oh my goodness, where do you even start?
Yeah.
Also with Nimble, it's like very clearly there's a couple of circles, there's some information. It just seems a lot more streamlined. So that picture is worth 1,000 words as far as I'm concerned, because it very easily shows, hey, here's the problem. Again, like there's this kind of this information overload with tabletop role playing games. This is our solution. It's very much streamlined. So I think that this picture is excellent.
Yeah, and they make a really good point, and in this as well, that kind of explains the problem, which is that your character sheet doesn't have to look as complicated as a tax form to have a deep tactical game. Like, I love it. It's like, there's the problem that we can all agree with. Like, yes, this is very cluttered, and you can see Pathfinder and D&D. Also, another thing is trap options. They call them trap options. Like, traps or needless clutter dilutes your choices. Things that obviously are worse. Like, would you rather win this game, or would you rather, I don't know, have the ability to dig holes better? I don't know. It's kind of I know the RPG people are gonna be like, no, well, actually you can dig holes and that will help you win better. But I mean, I'd rather take +1 to strength or something as a useful stat. So anyway, the concept is that this half-page character sheet is simple and easy, and they can use it in contrast to these big unwieldy examples. And it's I think that they just did such a great job with this. So and then the whatever, the synthesis is more fun and less friction. That's really what it boils down to. And then it talks about here's what's in this this system. You know, you've got character classes and whatever. So the key is they are now providing supporting documentation for everything that they said. This is what you get. This is what's you know, this is why these are the actual physical things that you will back, right? And it gets into that kind of thing. So that's the page. I'll stop sharing now. Let's talk about this stuff.
Well, maybe to go back to the overview. I know that's something that we kind of briefly talked about. You talked about your school project, and you changed the overview. So, in terms of Kickstarter, the overview would be the very top, the title, and then that subtitle and the display image. I kind of see all those kind of work in tandem. So,
Yeah.
what should the overview really seek to communicate?
So, in fact, I'll share my screen again for those on video. But the overview should communicate what it is, what it is, who it's for. Generally, I want 3 questions answered as quickly as possible. Who am I? What am I doing? And why should I care? And so, Monsters and More Nimble TTRPG reprint and expansion. So it says it's a tabletop RPG. It says it's the Nimble tabletop RPG, and it's the monster manual you've been waiting for. 200 plus new GM friendly monsters, loot, subclasses, adventures, and more. And then it's accompanied by the image, which is actually the only thing that I think does a really good job in the opening statement, because it wraps into the opening what you know, that kind of above the fold section, what this is. Slay TTRPG Slog is the only area in this above the fold section, the opening statement, that addresses the thesis, the main idea. So at first glance, you would just expect that this product would be something that is an RPG supplement that has monsters in it. And I don't think that it, you know, for a stranger that doesn't know anything about this, you might not realize that all of this is a new system that, you know, is that slays slog, that you're not having downtime in your RPGs. And so those are the kind of the essential elements of the opening statement, which is this above the fold section, the main, so the name of the project, and then the subheading of the project and the accompanying image. You also have a video, which many people will not click. So the first image, it's really important that is very impactful.
It's a good use of the
And
space, isn't it? Because the temptation might be to have the core book, his monster book there on the left, and then on the right just have like a blown up picture of some art piece. But he's chosen to rather put again what we said, his kind of his main thesis there, Slay tabletop role playing game Slog. So I think that's a really good use of the space. It's something that people moving forward might want to consider doing, is that you have your board game box or whatever it is, and then on the right you could have some type of catchphrase that really makes your project stand out. It's a good use of that space in terms of adding more information, more text. So I think this is something that people could leverage more moving forward.
Yeah, I think that they actually super smart what they did here, and not
like
deceptive
the
or
film
anything.
credits.
Yeah, I love this, like the Olympic, what do you call it? The Olympic leaves over here. That is, they have social proof, #1 TTRPG of the year. They don't actually, a lightning fast explosion of action, absolutely outstanding. These are quotes from people. There's no like credit given, but it's a summary of what to expect, and that in above big and bold, that's a serious statement that I would be very interested. It's like, okay, that what is the #1 TTRPG of the year? If I am a role-playing game fan, that's something that I will care about a lot. So anyway, so that's kind of the opening statement. So now that I know what this is, I can now kind of start to absorb the main idea. And again, the main idea, you know, what is it? It is kind of more of the opening statement. Again, I need to know what it is, or who am I? what am I doing? Why do I care? But another way to do this, or maybe a fourth one, in addition to who am I, what am I doing, why do I care, is what is it? What is this? And you could simply, people don't want like a really complicated answer. They just want, oh, this is an RPG supplement with 200 monsters in it. That's awesome. It's like, okay, maybe I'll look a little further in. And it's a good RPG supplement with 200 monsters. And then as I scroll down, it actually increases the speed of game night, RPG battles and other things like that. So I think that the opening statement flows really well into the main idea or the thesis. In fact, I would even have bolded that first sentence, as we're thinking about it, but really the whole paragraph does such a great job.
And then it's interesting because there's this term, it's not two rules heavy or two rules light, it's rules tight. So we kind of see this Hegelian dialectic even in that phrase there. It's not this, it's not A or B, it's C. So it's interesting that the rules tight seems to be a catchphrase being used here that kind of very quickly and succinctly shows the solution that this certain product is giving. So that's something to keep in mind for your product. Can you kind of surmise the core element or the core feature, the benefit of your game in as few words as possible, in a sentence, or in this case 2 words? Rules tight, I think, is a very good catchphrase. So that's something that you need to think about, and how can you demonstrate that and use that term on your own page.
Hey, crowdfunding nerds, it's Andrew Lowen, and I wanted to introduce you guys to the Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. If you don't know, we have a do-it-yourself course system that will teach you how to build, excite, and prepare a crowd to fund you on your launch day, and that is our goal. I have used these systems to help raise over $30 million for tabletop campaigns, over 200 tabletop crowdfunding campaigns since 2019. I've generated over $100 million through e-commerce sales using these processes. These courses teach you how to replicate our results. They're made for the small creator. Over 150 of those people were first-time creators. These courses contain hundreds of hours of podcast discussions and tons of details that are almost impossible to find on the internet. And they have been distilled into concentrated courses that you can absorb quickly. They are designed to generate results. We hold nothing back. Visit crowdfundingnerds.com/academy to learn more, or just Google search Crowdfunding Nerds Academy. Back to the show.
Yeah, I think that it takes time to do that as well. So, a lot of the time you talk as a playtester, or I'm sorry, as a publisher playtesting your product with others. You're trying to understand, how do you perceive this thing from your testers. And so I think that it takes time, effort, and energy digging into feedback and receiving feedback, and then somebody's going to say the thing in the perfect way, and you're all going to laugh about it, and it's going to be something that you better write down, or that just maybe should, it sticks with you. I think that is a lot of effort to seek that out. It's not easy. It's not something you can just come up with and, oh, I'm a genius, I came up with this thing. But it needs to resonate with your player base. And I know, for example, the creator here, they asked the communities that they're a part of, do you want another 5e supplement? And it was loud and clear, no, we don't want another 5e supplement. We want something new. And that type of thing you will only know if you ask people or if you travel in those circles. But how to serve those people is, I guess you need some experience, right? So kind of back to the concept of the thesis statement. How do you make a thesis statement? What is the main idea of, like, if we were to go like generic and back into theory, what is the main idea of let's just say like a board game? Like, I understand this RPG is something that is very like focused on making a better, faster RPG experience. But I have a board game about, I don't know, chickens taking over the farm. Like, how can I, like, it's a fun game and everybody likes it, but like, what is the main idea there? And how do I express something like that when it's not like truly solving a problem, but is rather just a game that is meant to provide a fun play experience. I know how I would answer that, but I'm really curious as to how you would answer that, Sean.
In terms of, so I understand you in terms of what this product is this a kind of lighthearted, family friendly, or is it more like Animal Farm where it's making a political statement about?
Well, let's say like any, people listening to this have projects of all kinds, but like just a board game in general. Let's say it's a somewhat thematic game. It's not like abstract like Azul. It's not totally family weight like Monopoly, or Monopoly's cutthroat and like Munchkin, but like Shoots and Ladders. It's not that. It's like a project that'd probably be a good fit for Kickstarter. It could be $100 project, could be a $20 game. How would you like? What is the main idea of a product that somebody doesn't really have a problem that they're solving necessarily, but they have a good game that's innovative and interesting?
So I think it comes. We often talk about understanding your customer, that avatar, and what's motivating them to back. Is it because they really like the theme? With this theme, it seems a little bit flippant, I suppose, because some people might want to support a theme because of a certain disposition to like fantasy things, or it might be because of a political association or a religious association. So understanding that, I think, is going to really help in terms of, or is the game just really pretty? It's going to look nice on my shelf. It's going to look nice in my house, and I'm going to use it more as a collector's item, as a piece of art in my home. So understanding that, I think, is going to help how you present this. But I suppose all games, you sort of assume that they're fun. So how do you demonstrate that your game is fun? I think we've kind of covered this by not stating that it's fun, but demonstrating that it's fun, showing roughly how it's played very quickly. This is the 3 steps how to play, having third parties come in and say, I've play tested this, or I've played this. Here's my first thoughts, or here's an overview video, and to demonstrate that this is fun, it's worth playing, it's worth backing and supporting.
I'm in wholehearted agreement, actually. So for me, my thesis statement, or the main idea of every single board game Kickstarter that will ever hit Kickstarter or GameFound or any product at all, but things that are made for fun, you should pull people into the world through the theme in some way. If it's chickens taking over a farm, it's like, you could do like Full Metal Jacket, like those pigs have oinked the last oink, it's time to take over, or whatever. And you're kind of we've got half the cows on our side, and whatever. But I think pulling people in, making them feel a part of the world in some way, I think is really cool. That gives, because people assume the games are fun. You don't have to explain like this board game will be great on game night. People know stuff like that, and that's why they're looking at this in the beginning, because the art looks good and the theme looks interesting, or maybe the gameplay mechanics kind of intrigued them, and so now here they are, right? Like, you're not talking to ignorant people. And by the way, this is why it's much better to, if you make a game about chickens taking over a farm, it's much better to market to board gamers than it is to market to farmers, because farmers will understand, yeah, I know what chickens are, but I don't have interest in board games necessarily. Whereas board gamers don't have interest in, maybe living on a farm necessarily, but they know games, and it's a lot easier of a gap to jump into a theme than to try to jump into, understand a theme and then, but never have played a board game before and not have that kind of interest, right? So your main idea, you can assume a few things. You can assume that people know that they're at that page for a reason, that you're interested in your product for a reason. It's a fun thing, and they already know. Like, they're looking and saying, would my game group like this? Would my spouse and I like to play this together? Whatever it is, like, that's what they're trying to figure out. And so pull them into your theme and pull them into your game. So I think that some people are sold by the theme, other people are sold by the gameplay mechanics, and then other people are really sold by the experience that you're going to have. If I tell you that, you will feel like an epic chicken commander from Full Metal Jacket or Apocalypse Now or Saving Private Ryan, and you're gonna be battling against these evil pigs or whatever. It sounds like Angry Birds the more and more I describe it. But some people will be really sold by that. Other people will be sold by like it mixes deck building and worker placement in a new innovative way. And that's like, oh, okay, So now what I've given my thesis is like, this is what it is and why you should care about it. That's again the main idea. Show me what it is and why I should care. Then what all the things that you said, I consider, going back to that formatting guideline, you've got your main idea 1, main idea 2, main idea 3. That represents supporting documentation. So it's okay. So you're saying it's fun, but the customer, or rather the prospective backer, they make a few shortcuts in their mind, because if I were to read every single thing, every single word that's on a Kickstarter page, I don't have time for that. So I have to make some shortcuts and assumptions, right? And one of the shortcuts that the consumer's mind makes is that, and we've talked about this before, is that I don't believe what you're saying is true. So let's show them immediately social proof that actually it's fun because other people say it's fun. Look at these playtesters that have some quotes from the playtesters, quotes from board game reviewers, or whatever you have. Make a case. Show me supporting documentation that validates what your main idea. And so a lot of people get immediately into the pledge levels, like so early on. It's like, you are not giving supporting documentation. You're saying like, this is a great thing and you don't believe me, but I'm going to just show you the price. It's like, well, what are you doing? You need to show me that it's good and you need to get me interested. Like, so show me a little bit of the gameplay, like a real like tight wrap up of like what it feels like to play, what the mechanics of the game are, to see if I would be interested in it. Show me that you've had others play this and that they like it. That would be really nice. Show me that maybe I could watch a playthrough video if I wanted to, or open the rule book, or a lot of other things that you'll be able to splice in as supporting documentation, right? So you kind of started off on this, but what are the most, and sometimes we call them hygiene factors, but what are the most important elements when it comes to supporting documentation to show that your stuff is good?
I think having a overview of a thematic overview, at least who am I, what am I doing, so that people can put into context what you're about to show them. Then that 3-step how to play. And then after that, I think it's the supporting documentation, which we've said, the reviews and playthroughs. After that kind of package of that being displayed somehow, the next thing is then the pledges. Because at that point, hopefully people are like, okay, now I'm interested in actually backing this. How much does it cost? Is the next question that's going to come up in their mind. So at this point, you always want to show the product with a price. And I would recommend showing the price in dollars. So let's say if you're in Europe and you have euros, you can show euros, but make sure to also show the dollars, because most people in their kind of currency are able to understand how much a dollar is relative to their currency. And then the next part of this price that you're showing is trying to communicate value. So what value are they getting? Here's all the components. Here's how big it is. This is actually worth the price that we are requesting. It makes sense. And then really you're pricing the products or your pledge levels already designed to kind of get people into the other pledges. So it's like, okay, well, we have this entry pledge and this is just bare bones, you get the game. But we have this pledge, which is the game and the expansion. And this might be worth getting. And then we have the deluxe, which is the game, the expansion, and then like these added components, which just, bring the quality of life of the product up overall. And then those have, respectively increasing values, so that you're giving people a reason to consider the next pledge, the higher pledge. And then you might have then your super duper deluxe pledge, where you get all the things, but then you also have some say in how the game's developed. Like, oh, that's I really want to support this, but I also want to have a say in how this game is made. So those are some of the types in terms of the outline of the 3 statements. So just to recap where we are so far, we have the overview, we have the thesis, which is broken into these ideas 1, 2, and 3, Then finally, we have the conclusion. But I don't know if you want to add anything more to the idea 1, 2, and 3 before we move on to the conclusion.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to kind of, there are multiple lenses that you want to use when you're looking at a crowdfunding page. We're actually also talking about more than just the crowdfunding page. In this idea covers the landing page as well. And anytime somebody is looking at something when you're not there, because if you as the designer or publisher are there, they can ask you questions and they can see it and fiddle with it. And a lot of this may be able to take place just in their mind, like they're looking for why this is special, and then cool, I see it looks like deck building and worker placement, which is cool, put in a cool new way or whatever. I have Dune Imperium on my brain because I've played that a few times lately. But the when you're not in person and you have to use a website or the internet to communicate what this is, which includes both your landing page website thing and whatever it is, and the actual landing page on Kickstarter or GameFound, or those need to be ordered in a way that answers what your backers, the questions your backer has in the order they have them. That is the order your crowdfunding page needs to be laid out, and your landing page, the order the landing page needs to be laid out. So the first thing is like what is the goal? The goal kind of changes depending on if it's a landing page or if it's your Kickstarter before launch, or GameFound follow. You want that follow button to be pressed, but then after launch, you want a backer to you want to gain backers. So at first you're looking for an email. If it's a landing page, you're looking for an email address for them to subscribe. You're looking for a follower on GameFound or Kickstarter for your pre-launch, and then post-launch you're looking for a sale, right? And so those things, it's important to kind of lead people into the funnel of like, why would you want to gain more information about this? That's you need much less on a landing page to get somebody interested to gain information or to gain more information, because they're not having to buy, right? So I'm willing, if all I need to understand is the theme and some of the mechanics and how it's going to make me feel, and I'm very interested, I'll follow along. It doesn't mean I'm committing to buy it, but I want to see things like playthroughs, and I want to see the components and how the campaign develops and whatever, right? So, but then on and for the most part, it's similar. They're looking to seek information on Kickstarter GameFound as like a follower, but then when it goes live, they need to see more. So one really, really big thing is the offer, and you alluded to this, where the price is really important. But it's not just the price; it's the price, the total price, as in like how much money is it going to cost for the pledge, the shipping, and potentially taxes like VAT for Europeans and whatnot. They'll need to figure that out. For the components, like what quality components am I receiving? Does it seem like fair value? And in addition to that, what is the experience inside the box? So that's a really, really important, and how well you communicate the experience inside the box is kind of how I ascribe the value of that product. So it's kind of it's all kind of encompassing, but the offer and the way that you present the offer, and is it competitive? Do I feel like I'm gaining more value than I am spending in money? Is an important box to check. Like the answer has to be yes, or you're just not going to get backers. And I actually think that's one of the primary things that held the client we talked about earlier. One of the primary things I felt like held them back was that the product was too expensive for the perceived value. So that's why people weren't jumping on backing it right away. So I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'd say there's if people aren't impressed by the kind of the top part of your page, they're not even going to get to the price. So they don't care what the price is if you fail to convince them that this is something that's unique or something that's worth the support or something that would appeal to them. So I think that the price valuation comes after the fact that someone has already in their mind said, or is at least open to backing this. So their mind is in a slightly different space. Whilst at the top, it's answering the question, what is this oh, this looks really interesting. Oh, this looks really cool. Oh, I'm going to now back this. And then that's when the price is then introduced. So yeah, you never want to lead with price. You always want to introduce it further down the page. You want to lead with convincing someone or demonstrating that this product does what it says and that it solves a problem, that yes, it is fun and this is why it is. And the world is very thematic, or so on and so forth.
Yeah, I also think, what you said, the word demonstrate, the stronger a case you can make for the product, the better it will generally be received. But demonstration, the more you can get to, like, the ultimate demonstration is you sitting down at my kitchen table, I'm the GM leading you through a dungeon. That's like the number one demonstration of Nimble RPG, is actually playing it. But we're not, on the crowdfunding page, like, I'm not able to sit down with you and play necessarily, but I can download like free quick start rules and review those. I might even be able to, maybe you have a Discord server where you're scheduling plays and you're helping people play. I think that kind of thing is great. For board games, it's like you've got the ability potentially to upload your game to Tabletop Simulator, or I know like certain games will upload to Board Game Arena, which is a lot of work, a lot of effort to develop that, but you can do that. Or you can even have like a video that is an actual playthrough. It's like, if I don't know how to upload to Board Game Arena or Tabletop Simulator, if I don't have the expertise for those things, or maybe I don't have all the art assets, but maybe you absolutely need to have a prototype that you can use to demonstrate. It can't all be like 3D printed or rather 3D models and nothing physical. You've got to have something physical. So you print your prototype, you play through in person and record that in a video. That will be very helpful, or you get somebody else to do that. I think those things are all great ways to demonstrate your product. And then, of course, as much art and components as you can, minimize your use of graphic design on your page. Like, if you have cool looking lines and textures on your page, it doesn't really mean anything. Your page needs to be like component forward, meaning I want to see the actual components and I want them to be large enough. I want the cards to be large enough that I can actually read them. I want to see stuff like that. So those things are very important. I'll also say, like, kind of in the conclusion of this matter, you want to give people the other things that they you restate your main idea, as in an essay, you would restate your main idea. But I want to also add things before we get into conclusion of like, let people know if it's made by humans and not AI. Like, say that. It's a big deal nowadays. I've been writing a significant story for Deliverance, and I've seen the like firsthand, because I'm doing so much writing. I'll say, one thing I use all the time is, with one accord you do something, and it's like, what is a synonym for with one accord? And I'll put it into ChatGPT, and then it'll give me suggestions, and it'll say, well, what about, like, here's this line, here's this like paragraph that I've written in a story. Give me a replacement for with one accord, and then also make sure to check the tenses. Like, I don't want to do like, this is present progressive and this is past tense in the same paragraph, right? And so I'll throw it into ChatGPT, and if I'm like, ChatGPT, write me a story about a thing happening, it's total garbage. It really is. It's disjointed garbage, and the fact that something's made by humans is kind of a big deal. But you'll be able to read and see, like, yeah, this was made by people. So
I think another thing is to demonstrate it's made by humans. So, for example, a great way to do this with art is to show work in progress, so like a photograph of the artist on their tablet, or even with pen and paper or whatever they're using, to show, here's this particular image as a work in progress, and here's the final copy, so they can see that, okay, yeah, this was done by humans. Here it is, sort of in the process of being made.
Right. And there's something weird about just looking at art. You can kind of tell when something is AI. The main giveaway, I would say, that's not going away anytime soon with AI, and I could stand corrected a year from now, but the images used oftentimes do not feel like they're done by the same artist, and it's like so different. The style is so different, that it just, by comparing multiple images, you're like, this product is AI. And to me, that means, garbage. Low effort is what it means, not garbage. It usually indicates low amounts of effort was put into this, that you didn't take the time to play test, that you didn't take the time to refine your rule book and really let your product bake. But you try to find shortcuts. And so that's a problem. Now it's not the same. It's not true for every single product that uses AI, but it's true for most of them. And I see lots and lots of these products. AI means low effort. So now, in conclusion, I think that what you really want is, not only do you want somebody to take the desirable action of pledging for your product, or on Kickstarter Game Found, or you get them to follow your subscribe via email, and whatever that is. I think after the desirable action is taken, you want them to jump into your community. I think that's a really, really important piece of crowdfunding, is the community, because I think the community makes games special. It also makes it feel like you have places you can go to ask questions if you get a game, and it definitely adds like a little that layer deeper of attachment to a product, right? So
Yeah.
just to see a thriving community is kind
I
of
think
a big deal.
one thing as well is that the community space is catered towards certain types of games. I think some games you can't really build a community around them. So that's something to keep in mind. I find that community spaces tend to do better for games that have kind of grandiose themes, or themes which are really immersive, that even if someone doesn't even buy the game, for example, they could kind of jump in and support, because the themes are, so let's say it's like a fantasy theme. Anyone who kind of genuinely likes fantasy is probably going to want to be in this group to talk about fantasy stuff. So that's just one example. So I think that's something to keep in mind. So certain games, I think you're going to find it harder to create a community space than with others, so particularly if it's your first game, you don't really have much of a track record. So just keep that in mind, that I think, yes, try to build a community, but some games just aren't really suited for it. And in this case, you probably want to focus more so on getting followers on Kickstarter, GameFound, whatever platform you're launching on. That'll probably be your next kind of KPI, to get the email, get them to follow on Kickstarter, and launch. But I think if you can do all three, even better.
Yeah. So, well, hopefully this was interesting to you guys. Maybe it brought you back to your primary school days as well. But I was really the concept of the thesis statement really got into my dreams last night. I was just thinking about this, and it's something that I'm hoping, that client that had a rough launch, that we can turn it around for them. It'll be really cool to interview them on our podcast one day, if that's the case. And but remember, if things don't go well for you, you can always cancel and relaunch. But you really should consider these potential eventualities before you go launch your product on Kickstarter. Like, consider what would happen if you had $260,000 raised like Nimble in 48 hours. How would you handle that? That may actually, if you don't plan, it may actually be way too much for you. You might not be able to handle it very well. I've seen people raise $500,000 and not be able to deliver a product because they, not because they had 100 different miniature sculpts in it or anything, but just because they didn't know how to efficiently use that money to deliver.
Or if you get 1,000 backers to back a thing, that's 1,000 potential comments that you could be getting in 1 hour.
Yeah.
So do you have the capacity to read the comment, understand it, reply? Because you could just be completely bogged down by just replying to the mass amount of communications that you suddenly are being flooded with.
Yeah, that was, I can attest to that one for sure. Especially on launch day. And it's the other eventualities, we actually did this. We kind of covered this, I want to say, in like, maybe it's podcast number 7. The 7th podcast we ever did together was like, it was titled "The 4.5 Possible Outcomes of Kickstarter" at the time. And it was like, if you have abject failure where you're never going to fund, then if you're likely to fail because of your funding goal, but you could possibly eke it out, or maybe you're likely to succeed, but it's only going to be like 110% of your funding goal. And then if you have great success, and then if you have what I call catastrophic success, which is a bad thing. You know, if I made $20 million on my last project, it would be really gnarly. I don't know what I would do.
Episode 5. So if you go to crowdfundingnerds.com/episode 5, you'll be able to listen to that.
That's cool. Yeah, maybe we need to get some of these oldies back onto the podcast, because I want to say like the first 50 to 100 episodes or something, like it is not on Spotify, and some of that information is so useful.
Yeah. Not on our YouTube either.
Yeah, right. So anyway, well, we hope you guys had a great time on this podcast. Any concluding thoughts, Sean?
Yeah, maybe whilst you're drafting your page, you should listen to the Tabletone music app, because it's got some really relaxing music and ambiances. So even when you're just working away, you can put it on. I actually use it for lullabies for my kids to put them to bed, because it's got such a range of different music, and you can change intensity. So you can use it when studying, or use it when working, or just for lullabies. So make sure to check out tabletone.app.
That's awesome. All right, we'll see you in the next podcast, nerds.
Hey, crowdfunding nerds, if you're looking for an awesome fulfillment partner for US shipping, you should really consider Bridge Distribution and Fulfillment. I personally use them. I've used them for multiple projects. They do such a great job. They also can fulfill Amazon orders and get you prepped for Amazon and their warehousing team. I have been so happy using Bridge Distribution. I'm really proud that they're sponsoring us. If you reach out, bridgedist.com, that's bridgedist.com, let them know we sent you.